Hello and welcome to the King Heroes Journey podcast. My name is Beth Martins and I'm here with my special guest, Morgan Rich. Welcome, Morgan. Nice to have you here.
So nice to be here.
Yeah, so we are live on Rockfin. I did share a link out in the chat here for anybody that would like to jump on that platform instead. I see there's some people over there already. We are also live on Facebook and YouTube and X and Rumble and Vigilante TV. And I mentioned Rockfin already. All of these interviews get uploaded to my podcast channel. So we're super decentralized around here. You can catch it on Spotify and iTunes and Anchor FM and all kinds of other places as well. All right. So welcome. It is fantastic to have you here. We are newly acquainted through the House of Free Will. So I'm really glad to have you in there as well as a member.
Yeah, sweet to be there.
Nice. That's awesome. And today we're going to talk about the way that men heal. Not to say that that's any different, but I know you have a lot of experience with that in particular. I'm going to read your bio so that people can get a little sense of where you're coming from in this work with men in particular. So Morgan stands passionately for heart-centered men to inhabit wholeness. And wholeness is one of my favorite subjects we'll talk about, definitely. And on global adventures or deeply personal explorations, he guides clients into instinctual knowing of how to handle life's intimate, intense, and essential experiences. Morgan's devotion to authentic connection, along with embracing discomfort as the journey forward, led to his writing debut, Launch Your Life. And now comes, that was your debut. You're not an upcoming.
That was the debut.
I totally misunderstood. Sorry. So I said you're an upcoming author, but you're already there. And the next one coming out called The Invitation Beyond. He ventures across the globe and listens with deep instinctual awareness, seeking meaning and living on the edge. This special listening allows him to see the biggest potential in people and open pathways for the embodiment of their essence. He stays physically, mentally, and spiritually healthy by chasing pickup hockey games, dancing ecstatic dances, and embracing the unknown. He has a committed daily practice that includes meditation, breathing, and creative, spontaneous movement. He's a loving father, a challenging son, and a deeply caring friend. You can find him at the URL underneath the video here, morganrich.com, and you can find expanded invitations and insights at the same URL, /The Invitation Beyond. So I'm grateful to have you here today, Morgan. This has been a subject that I've been covering, as you and I talked about, and just exploring. I don't know for what exact reason yet that there is a difference in that the way that men take on their healing journeys and the timing of that. So I'm very interested. I don't know exactly what's going to come of it. It did start out with the Journey Code Coaching Certification Training, having enrolled all women so far.
Yes.
There are a few spots left for anybody that is interested to learn not only how to heal and deprogram with archetypes and principles of coaching, but also then to be able to turn around and help other people do that as well. So Morgan, would you like to start by letting us know how this journey came about for you? How did this whole project start that led you to helping men find their wholeness?
Yeah, well, really, really nice to be here, Beth, and thank you for all the beautiful energy that you put into the world. It's a gift to find the ministry, and just one of the things I love most about this project has been the Invitation Beyond, which is a new book, which actually is going to print today. Just very, very exciting day.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Being connected to heart-centered people, pushing edges, being in the beauty of their passion and living extraordinary lives is such a gift. And to be able to keep being around people like that has been one of the surprises and most beautiful pieces of this project. So when I trace back, when I was 18 years old, my dad died. I was a freshman in college. And what I found was that there was something alive that came alive inside me. I consider that event one of the greatest challenges of my life and one of the greatest gifts. It pushed me into a way of being that I knew had been there, but I didn't know how to get there. And through the grief and through the healing and through the lots of darkness, I found my way. And one of the challenges at that point was that I couldn't find any adult men in my life. And I was at college, therapists, professors, friends, adult men, anybody who could understand what was going on with me. And I didn't really understand what was going on with me. All I knew that it was in my heart and in my being, the soul was coming alive and coming online, and that there was this deep care. And I realize now that I have always been a dude who I really, really care. I spend some days wondering, like, how do I help people care about the world in the way that I do? And like, where did it come from? Where did I learn it? And in a certain way, I came in that way. And I just have always been that. And so, but I didn't know it. My dad dies and it starts to come online and comes really strong. And what happens when that, I'm all of a sudden alone. And with little support to understand what the hell was going on. And sort of in what I would call the trance of the normal world, in the status quo, in the college acceptance derby, in the just do these things and everything will work out game. And that really wasn't working for me. And I couldn't find someone to help. And so essentially that became my life, is being the guy who stands at the edge of the mystery, who is willing to go into those places, is willing to reach in and see and find, which I do intuitively in some level because I know it so intimately, how to support men, how to support women, how to support young people to start to listen and start to allow that instinct and intuition that is in us to remember, really remember, and bring alive that part of ourselves.
That's beautiful. I love that. And it illustrates a few points that, first of all, the challenges really are the gifts, but only if you make it so. That is not a given. That is a conscious choice. You have to turn the tables and decide that you're gonna transmute, however, whatever word you want to use for that.
Yep. Yep.
And I love that you care. That is a great quality. That's one of my favorite qualities in people. Hands down. And I recently did a course on the nurturer. I don't know if you're familiar with that archetype or if you saw any of the stuff that came down around that.
Yeah.
And I noticed how incredibly common that archetype is, that there is a lot of caring, but it's contorted caring. And it can be where you didn't get what you needed. And so you become that which you would have needed in the unconscious hope to heal yourself. And now it's good and right, but if you bypass the healing part and try to use caring for others as a way to heal yourself, it doesn't work. Definitely doesn't work. So yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it's a beautiful plan. I love that. I'm familiar with the nurturer or not. I didn't see what you put out, but intuitively know that. And it is, our wounds are our gifts. And as you said, I'm very curious about what is it that allows us to. Am I there? I noticed my internet glitching a little bit, so I think it's mine. You still got me?
Yeah, your image is frozen, but we can hear you.
Okay, so it is what is it that allows me to go into those dark, challenging places? When I was in college, I was guided there by source. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, in the sense of I was just able to hang in the difficult places. Somehow I made a commitment to myself to not drink or drugs or numb the experience. Exactly know where that came from, other than it showed up and I followed it, and it led to some really uncomfortable, really darkest time of my life, where I was on that edge of, do I want to live or die? and never suicidal, but certainly in a place of, if the train comes and takes me out, or someone jumps out of the woods, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. And part of what I realized was that part of me did have to die at that moment. I distinguished between big death and little death, and that what I was in a transformation where my innocent little kid was dying, and somehow I was able to hang in that tension alone, and get through it, and be in the alchemical wonder of what happens when we get into that darkness and hang in there. I'm grateful that I did it. I'm grateful that I made it. It would have been, I think, helpful had there been some guidance in knowing what the hell was going on and what I was doing. And to me, that's part of what you do for people in your beautiful work. What I do for people, and so many of us do, is say that we have to go towards and into the difficult places in our life, not away from them. And most people, my experience is, what I see a lot in our culture is the numbing, is the addictions, is the pulling back when things get uncomfortable.
Exactly. Yeah, there's something natural, but I have to use quotations on that word because it's actually really unnatural, and a result of a lot of circumstances in our life that have made our human experience extraordinarily painful. And I know I go into that and run away from it. I'm not totally cured of that either, but because I have to walk this talk, and I know the incredible benefit. It's really amazing how you were able to go through it on your own. You pioneered. I was in a similar place. I didn't have guidance through those really big doors. There was nobody who knew more than I did at that time, that I was connected with, that I could have reached out to. I had lots of assistance in a lot of different ways, in an adjunct way, but not that could go like, oh yeah, like run into the storm, because that's the fastest way through it. But I somehow knew, and this is one of the big topics we're going to talk about right now, is how I was pushed up against a wall. I was a dying person. I had nothing to lose in what I thought, allowing death to have me. And death is the subject, right? That is the biggest discomfort that anyone could ever experience. Not actual death, but the fear of dying, or the feeling of dying,
Mm-hmm.
which are actually synonymous with each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are, how did some of us get to that place through big calamities, big breakdowns, crashes, and I'm extremely well aware now how that doesn't need to be the case. Things don't need to get so incredibly out of hand, and you can listen to smaller signs along the way, and you can have a guide such as yourself who's been down that path. There's nothing like that to just say, it's like a midwife in a birth, how, you're screaming and you think it's all wrong and there's blood everywhere. But that person who has that experience goes like, no, perfect. It's all perfect. This is all good. You're doing great. It's all happening. Right.
And that makes a huge difference. Like, when the midwife and the doula is such a beautiful example of that. I often talk about hospicing the death of old patterns and habits so that they have a really honorable death, even though they've really caused a lot of pain and difficulty, but really hospicing and saying thank you and fuck you to them, along the way, and then offering them the midwifing and the birthing of the new. And to have someone, one of the questions I ask my young guys particularly is, are you willing to do what it takes to get your life going? Because if you're ready to step in there, I will step with you. There is a devotion there to say, let's go for it. And what's going to happen is that it's going to get dark. It's going to get rocky. It's going to get really uncomfortable, and it's going to be okay. And then part of the role that I inhabit is, sort of the river guide, or the raft guide, or the, life guide in that space of when it gets really rocky, to do just as you said, which is just to say, we got this. This is the training. We knew this was going to happen. We knew it had to happen. And this is transformation right here. So thank you for the courage, for the beauty, for the curiosity, for the willingness to stand in the difficulty. And you got this. Or you don't, and that's okay too. But we're going to stick in there because you're doing great. Like, you really are doing great. And this is the learning. And to have the affirmation, and I think this is part of the How Men Heal piece also. A couple different pieces in here, but to have the affirmation when things are feeling really rocky, is really nice. Is nice and affirming and reminding, and it helps, I would say, pave the way for the kind of transformation and the kind of lives that we want to be having, that I want to be having, and I think a lot of people do.
Right, right. And I'm a broken record on this, but to me, it's about the hero's journey. It's about freedom. It's not even really about healing as if that's the purpose or the destination. It is to be accepting the calling, whatever it is. And that question, like you said, is $1 million question. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to get through the door to freedom? Yeah.
Right. And we spoke about this when we spoke before, and this is an ongoing theme as well, which is to say, I am really in favor. And one of the reasons I was called to this work for myself was that I don't want everyone to have to go through the depth and the darkness that I went through alone. If everyone has to have cancer and survive cancer, or lose a child, or lose a father, or those are life offering a gigantic shove into our dance, towards our soul, towards whatever it might be. Because it is, for me, and what I see over and over again, is that the dark places, the challenging, uncomfortable, like, I know so intimately what it feels like to lose my dad. I know what it feels like to be alone in the darkness and to be looking around for someone to help me. I know what it feels like to feel that, it's so intimate. It was decades of working and being and stewing in that mix. And so I know it incredibly intimately. Like, that's the wound and the gift right in there. And so, and to be able to sit in that and bring it is what would happen if we bring the question, are you willing to do what it takes, without having there be that kind of tragedy? I want us to step in there because we want to step in there, and actually believe many people are called to, and that our culture is doing some weird thing that has us in a trance where we aren't connected to those desires.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the things I often say as well, in addition, is that everyone has to do their own work. You cannot heal for somebody. I don't care. This is my beef with the healing industry, if you want to call it that, or the healing professions, how they create the illusion that they can heal you. And it's just not like that. So that, the ones that are worth their weight are already knowing that and facilitating you to do that healing work. But there's no way around it or out of it. If you don't consciously choose to heal, it's not going to happen. But the beauty is that you don't have to do it alone. And to walk with people, this is one of the things that's incredible about the Journey Code Coaching Certification. It starts this week on Wednesday, but you can see people are organically and naturally supporting each other already, right? Notifications are off the chart that there's once you get into that container that is exclusively purposed for it, then the mutual support can start to be amazing. And sometimes it's the smallest thing can help you through a door.
I keep talking about the book, and my friend just launched his beautiful book this past weekend, which was such an honor to watch him. It's a work of fiction, and we were talking about it in his journey. And by doing so, what I said to him was, Jesse, you're shining a light, as am I, as are we, just what you described. We're shining a light on a path that many didn't know existed. That this opening into our hearts, this opening of how do we support each other, this ability to really step into our biggest, most extraordinary lives, that's unfortunately uncommon. And so for us to be shining light on it offers an invitation, an opportunity to calibrate to that part of ourselves that is so ready to bring our gifts, so ready to bring our passion, so ready. I mean, you open this door to your training, and then it's like shining light on something that's possible. And then people just are starving for that level of connection, that authentic, beautiful togetherness, community, synergy, alchemy that creates magic.
Right. I actually, for the House of Free Will, you're going to see not too long from now, I did a video on the 13 reasons that people don't heal, because they can be sometimes very hidden. And they are starving for that, but they have an equal, not, this is one of my points, they have an equal opposition to it, right? So they're hungry for it, but they're actively going no to it at the level of the unconscious. I mean, that can be a conscious decision as well. But so
it's the territory of annihilation, and it's a territory of death. Again, one of the simplest ways I talk about death and think about death, you go through stages of life and they die, they end. When I left 8th grade, it was the end of my life as an 8th grader, as a middle school student, and I'm never going to get that back in my life. And so there was a death and then a birth into high school, and then the same thing happened again, where there's a transition in those places. And so the annihilation is the resistance, is that part of us gets to and has to die, and that's actually a beautiful process. And there's many people who say, that the more you die, that, when I get to the final big D death, if I've died along the way, then it'll be like, hi, welcome, old friend. Here we are into this next magical step, whatever that might be. And I can feel myself in some level of that there isn't fear around that. There's more actually curiosity. The beautiful, wonderful place of what if death is like birth, where we are pushed through a canal out into a world that we can't even imagine what's possible out there. And then look what happens after we're born. All this magic here.
Nice. You know what? The connection might be failing a little bit on your end, and it's gargling your audio sometimes. What can help is either to jump off and jump on again, or to turn off your camera, which we'd like to see you, of course, but that could save the bandwidth if your connection isn't.
Okay, let me check the. Hang on one sec. Technology.
And so I'll just say a few things while you're checking your technology there. And when you use the word annihilation, it's not exactly a like if you put that on your website and like come and get annihilated.
Yeah, right.
It's not like the big attraction. Nobody's gonna run for that. It's not the thing that they want, and yet it is. It can be true at a lot of levels. I studied anthropology in university, and the whole shamanic initiation and healing tradition from more of an academic perspective, but they had a lot of ways to bring about annihilation, whether it was through initiation rites and rituals, or hardships that would be actively created, manufactured. And it's one of those things that people don't have to, like, annihilation can come at such subtle levels that it would only even be recognizable by your own self, that nobody would even be able to see that. Like last night, as I'm like dying on my balcony, even though it's like the perfect night and everything's like there's nothing wrong, look around, nobody's attacking me or trying to take me out, like my body's telling me or my energy is telling me. But nonetheless, so it can get to a very subtle and fine level that you do the work at, and save yourself the big crashes and the big falling apart and the relationship coming to an end, or you're getting the diagnosis of a stage 4 lymphoma, or all of that kind of thing. So I love your willingness to do that. So if you'd like, let's get into talking about the situation for the masculine in particular, I'm talking about men. I am a believer that believer is just my observations that the gender we either chose or came as is highly relevant. It's not irrelevant. I know you know that. Everybody in this world knows that. We don't have to have a big talk about gender bending and all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I have noticed over the years that it is it appears to be, like, first of all, much less attractive to do the inner work to men on the whole, in general. And then when they do make that choice, it can be much more difficult for them to get through those healing doors. So why do you think it is either less attractive or even harder for them? Maybe that's two questions.
Yeah, thanks. And how's the audio? Is the audio seem better now?
It's just great.
Okay, great. And please do keep letting me know. I wish that we could do the video, and maybe we'll try it again. But
Yeah.
we'll the audio is certainly significant.
Okay, like I said, you might be able to jump off and jump on. If you normally have a good connection, that might fix it, but it's up to you.
Yeah. Okay. Let me try that. I'll just jump off quick and
Okay.
come right back.
Okay, that sounds good. And so while we're waiting for Morgan to come back and get right into the subject of the inhabiting masculine wholeness, then I will let you guys know, if you haven't already seen the details for my Journey Code coaching training that is coming up, and you want to go much deeper into your own healing journey. Maybe you've come a long way, and in fact, it is a requirement for this training that you're not new to inner work and the gifts of that, so you're not afraid of feeling, for example, then you can visit this link and click on the application if you would like me to reach out to you and have a conversation about it. All right, so Morgan is back. How's it going now?
Hopefully better. Just please do keep letting me know if it glitches, and I'll try to.
Okay, and yeah, if you see your screen freeze or my screen freeze, then it's a sign. We'll just go
Great,
off
and
camera again.
I'll just go off camera. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
So I love your question of what is it particularly about men, and since we spoke last week, I've spent the week, what I like to say is inhabiting the question. It is allowing myself to marinate it and sit in it and really think about it and play. And as you've alluded to, and so much has come. It's been really delicious actually being in there and thinking about it. A bunch of different pieces have come, so I'll be curious to see how it emerges in our back and forth. One piece of the healing, just talking about healing, I heard this beautiful story that Bioaka Malafe shared, which was about Prometheus, who invented or found fire, was gifted the gift of fire. And Zeus was really mad at Prometheus, and so made Prometheus, put him on top of a mountain, and gave him what might be considered a gift of healing. And that each night, or each morning, an eagle would come and eat his liver. And each day, in the miracle that it might be, his liver would recover and be regenerated so that the eagle could then come again the next morning and eat it once again. And if we were to come across Prometheus in this state in the afternoon when he was in this healing place, we might go, wow, what an incredible miracle this is, that you are regenerating and being able to heal in the way that you heal. And I think from Prometheus's perspective, the healing that he's doing is actually perpetuating a cycle of being eaten by the eagle. And that it may, and in the sense that healing is actually promoting the dying, the being eaten again, which in the context of our death conversation is actually interesting to think about it. Now it's hitting me in a different way in the moment. And that I was questioning about, I was thinking about healing, and are we caught in you alluded to this, that healing perpetuates a certain sickness and a certain need to be caught in. And audio, okay, I just glitched a little bit. And so I was intrigued by that, and just, yeah. So I spent some time meandering in there around men bring something to the table that I think there's, at least in some cases, a resistance to the huge healing movement that we have going on. And that I was thinking about warriors on the battlefield, and I was thinking about my own, you know, when I play hockey, when I'm injured a lot, that my body aches, that my body hurts, that I get banged up, that I have this going on or that going on. And I kind of just keep working through it, you know, like, yeah, my back hurts a little bit and I'm going to play again tomorrow because that's what I do, because I love it and it'll be okay. And so there's some level where I'm intrigued by that of how do we be, what is the role of the men in healing, in saying we don't always need to go into the deepest, darkest trauma to get through it.
And so what would be the alternative in that context, do you think?
Yeah, well, I think there's a place of being willing to is being in a space where, what I might say is, we don't, that there's a little toughness sometimes, you know, that there's some toughness of saying we don't have to always process all of the trauma, all of the heat, all of the pain, and there's some level of getting through there. And I again, it's an inquiry, and I don't know where the edge is of it, because I know for myself that I find that I really like diving into the difficult, dark places. We've talked about death. We've talked about shadow work. We've talked about all the discomfort. My book is about discomfort. So there's some level on which getting good at being in there is really valuable. And there's a limit at some point to how far I want to go with it. And if I'm dragged into it, I don't particularly want to go there. I notice resistance coming up right away. If my mom or partner or friend tries to pull me into a place where I feel weak and vulnerable, I start to back up really quick.
Yeah, it's one of the principles of coaching that if it's not your choice to break ground in your own unconscious, then it does just bring up resistance. It doesn't matter if it's like the right thing for you or even the right time for you. So yeah, if you get somebody pushing you in that direction, chances are you're going to just push back at them. And it's like clockwork. Even when you want to do the work, that it brings that up. So yeah, people have a really bad habit of trying to force and control others, which doesn't really work. I know, you know. I'd like to go back. Yeah.
Go.
I'd like to go back to the topic of Prometheus eating the liver, or getting his liver et. And so it's so poignant. First of all, the liver being, you know, the name of the liver being the liver.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always have been indoctrinated that the heart is the center of life for our bodies, but more likely the liver. And then how many diseases come down to the liver, and all the toxicity that we have to face on multiple levels, including emotional, are going to involve the liver. And your query, and I've also been in a similar query about that, because there are now people who are into my work for several years in a row, where I'm able to see over time how things are working for them, and myself, you know, like I'm on a healing journey of more than 30 years and doing this work to save my life, and that evolved quite a bit after that fact. Oh, maybe you lost your connection there. Can you still hear me, Morgan?
I can't. I didn't hear just the last. If you can just repeat the last little part, I was curious, because I'm curious about the people who've been working with you and what you've seen.
Right. So the short version of that is that the work goes on, right? So you think that, oh, after all of these years, somehow I would be done and I could just, you know, sit back and help other people do it. But I've noticed that in some ways the work actually gets harder as you go along. You're able to bring up deeper experiences, more painful experiences that maybe your nervous system wasn't ready for in the earlier days. People go through certain experiences at a certain level, or like approach certain injuries, and they almost always are shocked when they come to me and like, oh, I thought I dealt with that my mom died, or I dealt with that when I got sick, or I dealt with that when something bad happened in my life. And it's true that you do, but there are multiple layers of the programming. Plus, we are in a highly, a collective culture that is still to the biggest degree ever very highly programmed. And the degree to which we are doing the work, not for the collective, but with the weight of the collective in order, right, in order to be of service ultimately to it. Again, we can't go in and like, oh, I'm healing the collective today. There's still something I haven't quite nailed down, but to make it more and more possible. So the work you're doing with men is going to make it exponentially more possible for the men you work with to get through those doors. That's just a fact. And if you didn't come out with your work and publish your last book and publish the new one that's coming out or starting to be printed today, as you said, then it is like it's not in our culture, it's not in our thinking, it's not in our awareness, or even if we had it independently on our own. If you don't see any examples of that, or any, in this case, like positive normalization of it, that it might not happen.
Right, and that's the shining the light, the illuminating the path, the offering a opportunity to calibrate. It's like opening up the possibilities in people. And I love, Beth, what you shared with that, of what I notice. And again, as a man, what I notice, and I think this is a part of how men heal, is that I want to be really good at healing. I want to be good at the things that I do. And when I start to when I start to build those skills, when I have built those skills and I have gotten stronger at being vulnerable, it's been deeply meaningful, and part of that healing the collective, and part of the, I want more and more and more, and that beautiful patience of knowing that the right moment, the right healing will come when it comes, and that maybe I'm not quite ready for it yet. And again, coming back to the place of having the light, having a guide, having a way of understanding that allows me to feel like that I am progressing, that I am strong in my vulnerability, that I am on a path that feels where I can be in my sovereignty, where I can be in my heart, where I can bring my full essence forward. And I think this is part of how men heal, is instead of being pulled in or forced in or brought to the therapist, the couples therapist, and the woman saying like, well, you need to do your work, and the guy being like, well, fuck off, fuck off, I don't want to do it, or just like there's resistance, because what it implies is that there's something broken, or there's something wrong, or there's something that you aren't, that I'm not seeing or not doing. And that's not a nice feeling. That doesn't make me want to go in there, even though I really actually do want to go in there.
Right. It's you're back to a nurturer archetype issue, that when we're especially close to people, it's really difficult to it's much easier when you're a bit more remote from people to, live and let live, and okay, they'll come around in their time, and just to have patience and compassion for them. But if they're your marriage partner, or your child, or your mother, your father, that is influencing your life maybe on a daily basis, then there can be like, get to work, do the work. What's wrong with you? And attending where they are broken, which is a massive disservice to people. Neither do you want to be in denial of the evidence of where they are not healed. But this is one of the techniques that I teach, to go out of your way to let go of the vision of others that they are broken, because you are contributing to that, in that vision, holding that vision for them, you're actually making it more solid. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just one of the things that I teach is I call it nourishing self-talk, and it can be for self and it can be for other. That I am ruthless in my way that I talk to myself in a positive way, so that even when I am doing something that where I'm really challenged or even failing. How's the audio?
It's better now.
Okay?
It was breaking up. Yeah.
It's glitching. Yeah. Sorry about that. I wish I was, I'm just ruthless in how I talk to myself and others. And so that even when there's a difficulty happening, what I want to do is help them see it in a way where it's, here we are doing our work. Here we are in the challenge with each other. Here I am courageous and find the best I got to show up in this. And it's like, to me, that's what you're talking about, is how do we hold each other in this positive potential. And I actually also think that it goes further to say, I mean, it comes back to me to that place of let's step into our work instead of having it come to us, and that we're actually doing it.
Right. Well, that's the thing, that when you think somebody else needs to do the work, again, I'm not arguing with reality. You're probably right. But because it just doesn't work, it mechanically, and on a results scale, nothing good comes of it. If you turn around and do the healing work on yourself around seeing that person in that disempowered light. So, it's good to be positive and encouraging and everything, but you also don't want to just like check out and pretend that what's happening is other than your perception. But if you turn that, it's like, okay, well, I am struggling with this person who's struggling, and how can I get myself out of the way to make it, like you said, in potential more possible. One of the things I wanted to go back to is that you said men want to be good at healing, and I think this is actually a very big key towards the masculine, is that I was confronted by a teacher when I was young, and he said, "Oh, you're very competitive like this," and it's like, "I'm not competitive." I said, "You're totally misreading me," and he said, "No, you only compete when you know you can win." And I'm like, "Oh my God, he's got my number," right? And that's my right. That's my masculine side. And this is actually really good information, because it is a different kind of skill. Like, you can learn, to be an electrician or a technician or a builder, or all of those kind of things, that the capacity to be good at is real nuts and bolts and information based. And again, tools and techniques and tangible things. Whereas when you're talking about being good at healing, boy, that's a whole different realm. And you can't, like we were talking about, that the metaphor with birth, how when you're screaming and it's chaos and there's all the unexpected things are going on, there's no real basis for going, "Oh wow, I'm so good at this." At times, it's usually like on the other side that you could have that conclusion, and sometimes those pockets, like you said, going through dark nights, that they're not quick, although they can be so much faster. You can go through them like infinitely more fast than people are aware of. So yeah, that's really interesting thing, that they would want to be good at it, or know they're going to be good at it in order to take it on. Do you want to say anything more about that?
Yeah, well, there's so much juicy, good, interesting stuff in there of I love it. Yeah, beautiful conversation of things get easier, right? Like being uncomfortable. And I've gotten to a place where the lines between good, bad, right, wrong, hard, easy are starting to blur, and it just becomes experience. And so then really magical things start to happen. I mean, just it's the way I work through things, just it's exponentially delicious and wonderful and challenging all at the same time. And yeah, being good at it piece feels really relevant. That I think that people want to. I think we all want to feel competent, and I think we all want to feel good at what we're doing, whether it be healing or plumbing or whatever it might be. And so tapping into that and being willing to be on the journey of doing so feels really significant. And I think it's interestingly challenging for us, for me, and what I see is to find that level of competence at the foundational level. And I really believe that we each have capacities, capabilities, desires to be connected, to be passionate, to be inspired, to feel alive, to bring our beauty forth. And when we're able to tap into that and have permission, and the path is clear, and we know that we aren't going to get attacked, dismissed, gaslighted, harmed by bringing that starts to be interesting territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That desire to feel competent, and I just want to echo that things get easier in the healing realm because you gain momentum. And when you think about the metaphor of a bicycle, that it takes a lot of added extra energy to get that bicycle moving, but once it's moving, it takes very little, comparatively speaking,
Yeah.
to continue to move. So momentum is gained, and that's a beautiful thing. Now what I've also noticed, and I have a feeling you also have done that, but that as you go along, the work actually gets harder because you become more available. A stronger nervous system can take more energy, and you can look at things that are more difficult inside yourself and out there in life as well. Like when the pandemic hit, actually more like 2015, when I lost my father, my nervous system expanded to a great capacity to look at things that I was otherwise needing blinders for. That, okay, I can't look at that, I can't look at that, I just have to go forward and do my work. And all of a sudden it was a full stop, and my life kind of forced me, or the desire for freedom forced me, quote unquote, to take on more and challenge myself at that level. And then as I go on, there's greater and greater challenges, and life never stops having the capacity for loss and for change and for disappointments or fails. Like when you talked about the warrior archetype, it's full of failure. There's
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in the work, yeah, and in I would say there's infinitely more failure in life than there is success. And that's, you can use that to your advantage as a way to grow stronger. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
And
and I was working with a dear friend last week, and she called and said, she's been in a relationship for many years, and just said, my body is screaming at me, and I'm so clear that I need to leave this relationship, and I'm terrified. And she kept pushing the edge of testing it, of being with her partner, of being with him. And she kept saying, my body is saying clearly that I need to go. And I don't, in my brain, want to, and I know it's going to cause harm, but I know I need to do this. And so, because I was there and there was someone that she could lean into and work with her through this, she had these really challenging conversations where she was just really honest with him about what was happening and what she was feeling. And his response was not so strong. And then we said, this is part of you learning to really listen to your instinct and intuition. And as you step in there, it's not going to be easy. It's not convenient. Sometimes it's very confusing. Sometimes there's a lot of uncertainty. You are going to be asked to do things that are sometimes that you may not understand, that are going to ask everything of you. They're going to ask you to bring your full self in there. And as you step, the more that you step, the stronger that you get, the more you build that, the more interesting, the more challenging, the more that's going to be brought your direction in order to step in there. And so this is not for the faint of heart. And this is the journey of meaning and intimacy and love and devotion and healing. And everything that it's rich and it's juicy and it's painful, and it brings we get to bring our full self forward. And for me, there's no other place that I want to play. And not only do I want to play there on my own, I want all of us to be in there, because when we do it together, then things get really, really interesting and juicy, and there's all kinds of synergy. And as you said, the nervous system gets stronger, the whole system gets bigger and able to hold more. And then we get to what I do like to say is stand at the edge of the mystery and create and expect miracles, because that is wild things happen out there.
Nice. And so if we go back to specifically how men go through this experience maybe differently, how, you were saying that, men knowing that they're in a space where they won't get attacked or dismissed or criticized or, mocked or something kind of like terrible like that. And it's not to say this is irrelevant for women at all, but there seems to be something unique to this also, because we're coming through a culture where, with the whole feminist movement, and it unfortunately it came in fashion to dismiss men and attack men and make fun of men. It literally came in fashion, and this was in our mainstream media. It was on the lips of all of the women that I grew up with, having some kind of complaint or takedown of the men around them. And even if it wasn't direct to their face or like in their earshot, it was very much in the zeitgeist of the relationship between men and women. And it also, maybe this is kind of a two-part question conversation, is about the sensitivity that men tend to have, sometimes I think more so even than women, which is maybe a little antithesis, that you might think women would be more less resilient than a man, because overall men are stronger physically in all kinds of ways. So what do you think is different for men in this arena that I didn't already say?
Yeah. Thank you. One of the things that I'm just going to go here because I think it's significant to go here. One of the foundational pieces, and you said this earlier about being a man, is that we have a penis. And there's this thing that goes on in this culture about the size of your penis, and it's not so subtle. And it is it's a foundational thing that we can't do anything, like we can't design the size of a certain size. And there's this implication that I think is there, which is to say, how are we doing for the audio?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
You there?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
Your volume is louder. Yeah. Go ahead.
Just the implication being that the bigger your cock, the better man you are. And it's a not so subtle, frustrating. I'm gonna try one more thing with the audio. Let me go try to find a different Wi-Fi network because I don't know what's going on with this one. It'll take me
Okay.
about, I don't know, 3 minutes to get there. Okay,
Sounds good.
I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks for the heads up there. Here I am. We've had some audio and connection kind of issues coming up, and yeah, I think that there is something that, one of the people that I privately interviewed was saying how men are stronger physically and maybe have, a lot of resilience and an ability to rise above a crisis kind of situation. And that is like coupled with a greater sensitivity, which you think might be the other way around. So I'm always curious to learn about that and see where the differences might be, and again how it's become, not it's become, this is more in the past. Is it still the case out there that, like, does anybody have normal people in their life, or take in mainstream anything where it's still somehow acceptable and a good sport to mock men and make fun of them and take them down and all of that kind of stuff? Like, is it still out there the same way that it used to be? I don't know. I guess people still watch The Simpsons with the, Homer Simpson kind of boob there. And is it still an ongoing narrative in that mainstream world? You guys can let me know if you like in the chat. And yes, thank you. I regret the issues, technical issues that we're having. I also am curious about how men have been, not, of course, every man, because there are traditions that wouldn't accept this, or people who've had, mothers in particular, parents who've woken up to it. But the effects of circumcision, the early torture and maiming of infants. I don't know if that's something that Morgan has learned about a little bit. We started to get into it with a panel was it just last week, I believe, or the week before, with 4 of the fellows that I've trained through Journey Code. And we just barely touched the surface, and it was actually a hot potato. You could see it as soon as the topic came up. There was a desire to shut it down and not talk about that, because it can be such a well of injury that long before you have any memory, which can be difficult, because then there's no words around the experience, and the memories are extremely embedded, and they're all survival based. And the way that it sets up the relationship between you and the caregivers that made that choice for you, it's not to make anyone feel terrible, that depending on your culture and your values and what was most important to you at the time. I think we all did things to injure our children, for better or for worse. I went out of my way not to do that. I still did it, right? Not in that particular way. But yeah, I'm really curious to hear any of your thoughts. Please chime in the chat as well about the sensitivity that men have, and then we all need our people where we're going to not get attacked and not dismissed and that kind of thing. So yeah, Morgan, just give me a thumbs up when you feel ready again. I can see you're in the yeah, okay, so we're good to go. Hi there.
Hopefully this will be better. I thank you for the patience there.
You're welcome. No problem. And someone in the chat was saying, yeah, that makes sense, that they would default to shutting down on that topic. They've never been invited to look at those emotions before. Like we were just talking about circumcision, when, the massive attack of an infant, a boy infant, it's like, it gives me no end of pain. Is it something that you help the men that you coach with heal from?
If yeah, I mean, we definitely talk about that, and issues around sex and body image and all kinds of things like that. And when I was younger, there was I was outraged to hear all the female circumcision that would happen in different places in Africa, and I had the reaction of like, oh my God, that's insane. And then also of like, hey, I don't understand the culture. It's not my culture. So I want to have some level of curiosity around it. And then more recently, just really realized that male circumcision is this thing that we don't talk about. And it's a given for many people in the West, many men in the West. And I circumcised my son, and my cousin videotaped it because it was it was a bris and we were Jewish, and it was this whole, like, we invite our whole family to watch our kid get circumcised. And he came to me and he was like, I have the video, but I can't imagine that you would want to watch it. And I've just really realized there's not a comparison, but it's something that we don't talk about very often. And I think it's really significant that, both the cock size thing, which I was talking a little bit about, I don't know how much you heard about that, but then also that happens to many men in the first, very young time of their life, where they're emasculated in a huge way. And that makes an impact.
Indeed, it does. Yeah. Yeah. So watch for a panel coming up. It could be this week or maybe next week, where we'll probably go deeper into that prickly subject. And here I am noticed a podcast about how men rely on women emotionally. Feel free to lay it on me with a link if you like. Missing pieces are good. I'm a pattern hunter, puzzle maker.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I feel I want to just, maybe finish the thought, if I may, of the place. And I know you spoke about some stuff while I was away, but, there's a subtle, not so subtle narrative that the bigger your cock, the better human man that you are. And I think there's important conversations to have around that. And it's a very foundational piece of how we bring ourselves to the world. And so then there's all kinds of different stories around that we inhabit as and I think unconsciously in many ways as men. And that again, I love your questioning and want to keep hanging in there of what is different for men in healing. How do men heal? And on some level, being willing to talk about these foundational pieces and really being able to at a foundational level feel belonging, at a foundational level feel okay with ourselves, to come back home and grab the groundedness that I know that I am okay. That I know that I am okay not because I'm getting validation from outside of myself, but because I know it from inside of myself. And when I feel that, I can then step into that healing space. I can then step into the vulnerable places, and be open to the exploration of bringing myself in the way that I really want to bring myself, which is to say, to be in the intimate, beautiful, uncomfortable, traumatic places for myself with my partner, for myself with my kids, because those are actually the most juicy, meaningful places where I think connection happens.
Right. Yeah. That's that's one of the big injuries, one of the core injuries, one of the major programs, the roots that get installed is that we are not, hello, Tammy Truther, nice to see you. We are not whole. We are not connected. We are not one with the other.
We don't belong.
And we don't belong is a huge part of that. Exactly. So yeah, it is, I think to some people it could be a comfort to hear that that's programming, right? That is something that it's not a natural way of being, the running around fearing not belonging and wanting to belong. How out of integrity does it make us? Do you think men are less vulnerable to wanting to belong, or do you think there's no difference there?
I think men want to belong. I think that sometimes we bypass it and try to get tough and try to get strong and try to muscle up and maybe belong in that kind of way. And there is some belonging in that when we get we're on a team and we're together and we're in that aggressiveness, and that's a beautiful level of belonging. And significant. And there's the tender underside, it feels like, of that as well, of wanting to, yes, be strong and part of a team, and also belong, like have my whole self be seen and acknowledged.
Right, right. Yeah, here I am said that they're less vulnerable in some ways, more in others. So I'd be curious to hear what, if you want to share more in the chat there, here I am.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking about is that, like in my life, there was some really painful times where I realized I didn't belong. I wasn't with my people. They didn't appreciate who I was or what I had to offer. They didn't encourage any kind of growth experience. In fact, they actively discouraged it, made sure that I didn't reach and stretch and go to that edge, which are all more masculine qualities. And then what it's always done for me is put a stop to that trying, because then you need to contort yourself. You need to be somebody that you're not. You need to fit into their definition of what okay and belonging, the conditions of belonging are. And it has always pushed me to leadership in some way or another, because then first of all, I'm guaranteed belonging. If it's my thing, and even if I'm the only one, then I belong, right? Or if one person comes, I can't be, it's not like a board of directors. I can't be kicked out of my own uh, space that I belong in. Now with men, it's different, right? Because they are the natural leaders. They are the kings. They are like, yeah, I don't say queen. I'm not saying kings and queens. You'll if anybody's new to my world, you notice I'm not interchanging those two archetypes by any stretch of the imagination. The king is masculine, and they are a get out in front of people kind of an archetype where you have to sacrifice any desire to belong in order to be that leader. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, what I have found, and I think is crucial to all of everything that we're talking about, is that I have found in my meditation, because I'm a nomad, which is interesting. I live in my van, and so I don't have a home. I don't have a physical building that is home. So home is right here. When I sit and I meditate and I do my breathing, no matter where I am in the world, I come home, and I'm with myself. And I do that, and I find that place. I can find that place in darker times and in lighter times. And I'm so familiar with it that I can know, and I can start to feel the difference. And I start to know that when I'm challenged with myself, when I'm in a dark place, really struggling, that I can just keep saying, I can do this breath. I can do this breath. I can do this moment. And I know that better times are coming. And to me, that faith is really huge. And it's home. And it then allows me to then be in those vulnerable places. It allows me to not need the external belonging, the external. I don't grope for it, fight for it. I like it. Like I like it when when I'm connected to friends and all those kind of people, but I don't need it. And it changes the quality and the texture of the interactions that I then have with my friends. Many of us say to each other, it's so nice that I know you don't. I know that you've got yourself, so I can be myself fully, because I don't have to take care of you. And I think so often we compromise, like you were saying, when we're around other people. It's so easy if I don't have myself, then I'm going to compromise to fit in. And it's not a very powerful place to exist from. And what I noticed for myself for many years, and I just said this I was working with another young guy last week, and he's just finding home, and it's new. It's like new for him to be able to feel that sense inside of himself. And he's got these beautiful connections to the natural world and the more than human world, and his family doesn't understand it. And I said, so you have to stop talking to your family for a little while, because all you're doing is putting yourself in harm's way, where they're attacking they're attacking you and you aren't strong enough yet to defend yourself. And so don't go there until you're ready to step in and be able to hold true to self.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Once you can, then you can go back. But for now, they aren't your allies. And then you might lose friends. Like, you are going to lose people in your life, because I don't want to be around people who aren't uplifting me and where I'm needing to compromise.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's just not interesting to me anymore.
Yeah, I could still be stuck in those so-called, frenemies or friendships. And it's I guess the road less traveled. This was interesting. Here I am was just bringing up about they are perhaps less expected to people please than women. And it's funny, when I first read your comment, my mind transposed pleasing women, or I dropped out these words, and so that was something that someone said to me in a private interview with a man on this subject, was about how much men really do want to please women, especially the women in their life. And that do you think there's something inherently natural about that? That there's a formula for life to thrive that is in. Now, I know there's obviously a dark side of that when you get into people pleasing and contorting yourself like in the way that we've already said. But is there anything more about the way a man is wired to, like, satisfy a woman, to solve her problems, to to make sure she's happy so he can be happy, or those kind of things?
The way that it's landed for me, and it's so fascinating writing a book. I should say the book wrote me in so many ways, and there were different stories that wanted to come through and be part of it. And then I would listen to them and allow them in the most beautiful way, and offer. I mean, one is I want to be a source of nourishment and upliftment for all the people in my life. That is meaningful to me. I want to have every interaction I have with the human and more than human world be one of nourishing and getting to our essence. And so for me to hold a space, and this has happened so many times, to hold a space for women, for them to feel safe, for them to feel seen, for them not to be dismissed, gaslighted, disregarded, questioned in the beauty that they are bringing forth, to hold a space, to allow their essence to come forth and not just be tolerated, because tolerated is up from where, like, it's a step up from where it often happens, like where we exist a lot. But now we want to go to enhanced, expanded, like honored. And to me, I find that there is, I love the idea of being the captain of a ship. And I want my queen, and I want all of my subjects and people on the ship. I want everyone to be thriving, and that my role is to stay with myself, is to keep us on track, right? Is to keep saying we are going this direction, and I get to have my ups and downs as long as I'm able to hold that space and offer the expansion. I want my woman, I want the women in my life, I want all the people in my life to say, enter the arena with them thriving and their essence blooming and blossoming, and me to be holding space for, like, protecting them against any of the attacks that might come. So yes, I would say, like, and desire is beautiful also.
And so yeah, that's say if we go back to birth as an example, not a metaphor in this case, but that the woman's job is to effectively lose control and let life come through her. This, I wouldn't have said that before I birthed. Yeah, but that's like, okay, just get myself out of the way, and the truck's coming through.
Yeah.
And then the male's role, which can often be really difficult, also just because of the contortions and lies in our society and ways men have been positioned or succumb to all of that kind of programming, is like you're saying, to create a safe space where they, and I hesitate to do this. I don't, because as a coach, I always say, like, your role is not to create a safe space. It's actually kind of bullshit, because if the programming that says you're not safe is running, it doesn't matter what kind of gymnastics you do to make everything so safe. But there's still truth in it. Like, if you think about the woman who's birthing on the savannah, and her baby might get eaten by a lion, or she might get eaten by a lion while she's losing control in her process. And then, the man's job is to hold the fort and know that, so she can fully let go and know that there's absolutely no chance of a breach of this birth space. And so it's a really beautiful, natural design, like the most perfect design ever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm with you with the safety piece, right? Like, one of my rules is, the Burning Man idea of, like, safety third, and I don't even know if I put it third. I might put it even further along, than that. That I don't want to be dictated by safety in a certain sense, and creating a safe place for me is really about, like you said, it's like making sure that we don't get eaten by the lions and the tigers, and so that we can then have the real experience that we're having. Not to say that it's going to be an easy experience or a safe experience or a, nothing bad will happen here kind of thing. But it's almost like, I want to get into the right trouble, not the wrong trouble. And so I want to go towards intensity. I love the idea, right? Like, I want you to have that birth experience where you get to just let it rip, like, let go, have your experience, whatever wants to come through in that moment, to be fully present, calibrate, like, in it, like, sensually in that experience fully, and not having to worry about things happening on the outside. And so I see that role as the man of, like, taking care of what's on the outside. And for me, that's a safe place. That's the role. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's like to monitor so that you get to be fully in the essence of whatever, of the birthing process, of the bringing yourself to work, of bringing yourself to parenting, whatever to our intimacy. Let's have all of that be part of it. It feels good to, like, feel that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a big subject where it's been so, like, stupidly weaponized against us around safety. And you get the clerk at the grocery store saying, "I'm keeping you safe," and this is like, right? Like, it's a total mind fuck in that respect. Yeah. But neither is it anybody's role to create an unsafe space for others. So anyway, it's a contortion. But I'm just curious how you work with the men in your life. What does that look like? How do people reach out to, say, get your new book? What is your new book about? If you'd like to just share a little bit more about that.
Yeah. It's called The Invitation Beyond: Reclaiming Healthy Masculinity. And the invitation beyond is what we've been talking about, is the invitation to step into our hearts, into our lives, out of the status quo consensus reality piece, and into this place where we're actually able to be connected to, let's say, the energies of the cosmos. And it's really an invitation into our hearts, into those places where we've been dismissed. And the beyond is a imaginal place that where there is the synergy of the fugitives creating sanctuary, of us being in our essence, coming alive. And I feel so deeply honored to be bringing this project forth. It is every time I read it out loud to friends or my mom or whoever it might be, I burst into tears. I just get such I don't know if I burst into tears. There's such a deep emotional feeling of it, doing what we're saying, which is illuminating the path, inviting people into this beautiful place where I think we all want to be, which is a deeper level of aliveness. So the book is going to the printer today and will be available soon on Amazon. And although I've debated that for a while, but we're going to put it there. Certainly can get it on my website at morganrich.com. There's also information about the work that I do with both men and women. The program for men currently is called Beyond Therapy. And I'll give an example of that in just a sec. Blossoming Open is the coaching work for women and young people. I have these beautiful ways of it's that question I asked earlier, which is, are you ready to do what it takes to find the clarity, to step into your life, to make your college or high school or not, alternative path journey everything that it can be? Like really taking advantage of all of the opportunities that you have as a young person to connect to your heart, to connect to your soul, create the habits that are going to help propel you into the life that you really want and not along the path of checking all the boxes of consensus reality. And men, the beautiful work I love doing with men is when there is a moment of opening, where they are really ready to step into themselves, into this healing work, into relationship, into new space, where there's that knowing that I have a risk that I have to take in my life. I'm knowing I have to, it is time for me to step into that uncomfortable, unknown territory. And to be the guide, to be the mentor, to hold the space for that adventure, which can look like daily calls, because when you're in it, you're in it. And so then like we are in it together, and I'm holding that space of way to go, like and pushing and enhancing, and I can see things in people that they can't see yet, and offering those it's one of my little Spidey superpower things, which is such an honor. And I just feel so honored to do the work that I do and to have the opportunity to support people stepping into bigger, more extraordinary lives. So thanks for the opportunity to share.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so I look forward to hearing more about your book as it comes up. And thank you so much for joining me today for the interview. I really appreciate it. It's been great to get to know you and hear more about it.
Yes, thank you so much, and thanks for your patience with all the internet, the ups and downs of that. So, but
that's
beautiful to be here, Beth, and thank you again for your work and the beautiful energy you put into the world. It's a gift for all of us.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And so you can again visit Morgan at morganrich.com and watch for his new book, and forgive my notes that's called you an upcoming author that he already got there. So, yeah.
I'm that also.
I'm going fast these days. Yeah.
A former and upcoming and emerging, and it's fun. I've really in this project really realized how much I love writing. That it is it's part of home, and it's the stories come, and I get to listen and open that listening, and it's a beautiful, beautiful space.
Nice. That's awesome. And thanks everyone for being here in the chat as well. And here I am. I love your name, by the way. And so watch for an upcoming panel interview, part 2 on How Men Heal, which is at this point that title doesn't really work, because I don't think it's any different. How Men Heal, just the reasons that they would go towards that are likely the big difference. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. If you're interested in the House of Free Will, you can visit my website, bethmartins.com, and apply to be a member there. I take applications just to make sure that we are enough like-minded that we're likely to get along, which is a really important part when it comes to being part of a group. And it's not a there's not a like condition, act this way or be like that. But if you don't have enough in common with people, then there isn't the basis for a natural relationship. It's just the fact, Jack. And so, yeah.
Well, and if I may, if it's that what you ask of people is to bring curiosity, is to bring an openness, is to bring a perspective that is willing to shift and change and evolve, and that you're in the emergent moment, and that is a beautiful, beautiful thing you offer. And part of the application, it seems to me, is not everyone's there, and so if you're ready to play in those waters, this is a beautiful place to do it.
Nice. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to play us out. By the way, I am obligated to say that the intro and the extra are done by my son, who is Psycho on YouTube, Saiko. And if you would go into the show notes and do me a favor and subscribe to him, his passion there, the theme of it is guitars, guns, and knives. So it's very masculine. I'm actually pretty happy that I was enough past my own feminist indoctrination not to try to cleanse that out of him. I'm actually so proud that he is a protector.
Gift. It's a beautiful gift as a mom to give that to your son. Is really touching. Every time you say it, you can feel his heart, and it's really beautiful.
Right on. Thank you. Yeah. I'm a proud mama, and I wouldn't have been. I would have been like, guns bad. This kind of thing. It's just Guy got over it, so in time, luckily.
It's a huge thing. That's all we've been talking about. It's huge. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
It's really a gift for all of us.
Awesome. I'll let him know you said so. Yeah. All right, everyone, have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll catch you on the other side. Definitely leave your comments and any questions you have below. I'll see them also at a later time if you're catching this as a recording. And I think that's all, other than just to remind people that the Journey Code Coaching Certification Training is coming. If you're really ready to not only do the deep dive and do the work for yourself, but you're on that hero's journey where you're going to be helping others on the other side. This is a kind of 2-for-1 in that capacity, where you cannot really help other people heal if you are not actively doing that for yourself, or at least in a highly credentialed way, as far as I'm concerned. And so the link is here. You can look at all the details. The classes go for 7 months. There's a couple of weeks off over the holidays. So it is an extremely intensive training, but everything builds on itself. It takes about 5 hours a week to be successful at the training. So it's not very much. It's not like your life has to stop. And actually your life is the subject of the whole entire thing. So if you're not living, then this won't work for you either. And I will reach out to you for a personal conversation because of that exact same reason. Just wanting to know that you're likely to be successful in this work, and learning from my past and how people have, like it's for everybody. No, it's actually not. For, in principle it is, but timing is everything. So that's the thing I just want to be really sure of. All right. So I'll leave it there for now. Thanks again, Morgan, for joining me. I really appreciate your time, and best of all the wishes for your book. Please,
thank you.
Please do promote it in the House of Free Will. There's the forum there and the Telegram group and everything like that. We'll be excited to hear about it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay. You're very welcome. Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.